Good afternoon, all of my loyal listeners. This is Discovering Life with Jacob Wilson. I'm here today with a software engineer. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Michael Umansky, and me and him are going to be discussing two philosophical concepts that are near and dear to my heart. Hi, Michael Umansky. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'd say I'm doing great. I'm excited for what we're about to talk about today, and I'm very curious to know what you think about this because I know your mind is very philosophically oriented, more than most, I'd have to say.
I appreciate you having me.
So we are going to reference two pieces of writing today, two geniuses that lived back in the day. One of them is Michael Humer, and the other one is the OG Socrates. He is the boy. Everyone knows that guy.
Everybody loves Socrates.
Oh, yeah. Let's start with Socrates. He is someone we could all look up to. He's the guy who probably discovered the hallucinogenic anyways. Like that guy, he's got something figured out. And if we take the time to truly sit back and consider what this man was trying to preach to the world, I bet it would be the most beneficial thing for most of humanity. Humanity nowadays is selfish, it is disgusting, it is falling apart, and this man was onto something. And what I think we should talk about today, something that he was very adamant about, is the fact that you should not really care what people think of you. And I don't mean anyone. Obviously, it is good to care and praise certain individuals and let certain perspectives get to you. Because like, what am I trying to say here? It's not a good idea to let a lot of people not dear to your heart, not close to your heart, influence your actions, influence your anxiety, your motives. If anything, the more you let the masses get stuck in your brain, all their perspectives, the more you're going to be held down. Socrates is a firm believer in ignoring the many and listening to the few. So I want to know if you've had a situation like this, Umansky, where in your life you have allowed a group of people to get to. Has it ever happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, I run a coding club at Michigan State, and I'm talking to new people every day where they have different opinions on what's going to be the biggest, latest trend, what is going to be making the most money 20 years from now. And everybody's always a critic. Running a club, it's not easy. You got to organize workshops, get people interested, get food involved, organize all those people. And, some people will have their criticisms of like, hey, I don't like this, I don't like that, or like straight up, they just don't want to participate. So like, I just have to take that as it comes and not let it put down the longer mission of sustaining a community of coders who are actually not as vocal, but probably still as passionate.
Okay. So I want to ask you a question. I want to know if you agree with it necessarily. Whatever you think, it's fine, obviously. But the question is, should a man or a woman who is professionally engaging in physical or mental training, and I kind of touched on this already, but should they pay attention to the praise, blame, and opinion of any man, of all the men, the masses, all those who are not near and dear to your heart? Or should you only care about the praise and the blame of one man, maybe a doctor or a physical trainer?
Definitely the specialists are people with more authority over people's lives, and that can be valuable just to help organize what's true and what's not. But it's good to always keep yourself centered at yourself. Like, you know what you need to be able to do unbehest to other people's opinions. If your method is different than what people expect, you're obviously going to get criticism for the actions you take.
Yes.
So, if you are truly looking to gain, or like you're working towards a certain goal, you need to know that that goal is more valuable than what other people say. So if you want to, let's say, improve your boxing skill, you're going to listen to the boxing trainer over, someone in the audience who is booing you because you missed a punch.
Do you believe that, say, a guy who was going for to become a boxer, right, and he disobeyed the trainer, if he disregarded the opinion of this one person whose information is truly valuable, do you think that he will suffer harm in the long run?
I mean, it's always up to the result. I mean, if you choose to go against a voice of reason, hopefully you have good reasons of your own for disobeying your rock. Or
what if your reason for disobeying your rock is the influence of those that are unknowledgeable?
Well, then, yeah, that's called getting in someone's head, I guess. It's just like you are not on your normal, typical path. Like you've strayed from your conscious beliefs.
And it's almost like you're letting those unworthy of your praise get to you, and how do you think this could negatively affect a lot of people? Do you think this is a common occurrence in today's
I think the biggest issue today is social anxiety through social media, because all the time we see other people having better, more perfect lives, and that is just the exact marriage of this exact concept of the masses comparing your reality with others. And because you judge yourself based on others, presented
to you daily because of this fucking mass social media.
Yeah, it's like you're not seeing their true selves all the time. A random person that you see online, like someone from school, someone that you work with, you don't know the true them unless you sit down and try to get to know them.
Which is rare nowadays.
Yeah.
Truly getting to know people. Everyone puts this presentation on, this shell that they want everyone to see, which gives everyone else this unrealistic expectation of what life truly should be. And if I agree, if anything, it's harming all of us. All of us that don't take a second to take a step back and realize what's going on.
Yeah.
So I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. Thank you. Thank you. This could be a good segue to a Michael Humer's argument, one of his arguments. So we were talking about how we let the thoughts and ideas of others, those not knowledgeable but just want to feel like they are, influence us. But if this is another concept that if you truly take the time to ponder, you truly take the time to read the information and absorb it and take a step back and think about it. I might have just repeated myself a little bit there. But this might help potentially prevent this influence from those who aren't as important hit you. And what his argument is that why care what other people think, right? Why care how other people live and what other people believe in and what they say about you if at the end of the day you can't even prove if they are real? We're going off the beaten path right now, but this is a concept that I bet we've all pondered on at least slightly in the past. But the idea that you cannot prove anyone else can see into the world you can see. The only thing that you can prove is that you have eyes and you have some type of sensory input. Some type. It's something we can't explain, it's unexplainable, but at the end of the day, it is unjustified to truly even assume there is other consciousness right next to you. And if we live our lives with this in mind, I feel like it would be unlikely for these other entities, whatever these things are presented to us, these other humans, to affect us the same way. What does this make you think of?
So this is where the tech side of me is going to come out a little bit.
Perfect.
Because one of the biggest things, kind of going to what you said in the first thing, why listen to people in the first place? Social media is listening to you. So people by themselves cannot comprehend objective reality. There's no way. You can only have a certain amount of input that you can experience in your life to make objective observations about everything. There's no way to objectively know the truth all the time. But the closest you can get is gathering as much information, which, you know, with tech, with computers, you can process huge amounts of data, objective data, that you can measure and predict moving on. So, by having a more objective grasp of, you know, reality, you can then control, I guess, people more. You know how a certain person is going to act based on their previous behavior. You can know the latest trends in products. A big market for advertisements. If you can push the right product to the right people, they will buy it. And just studying your psychology, your habits, models can be built to predict your behavior. So
humans are simple.
They're simple.
At the end of the day, we're just machines, you know. And yeah, I know what you're saying. You could, based on prior experience in life, say something, and then 90% of the time, so you get those results. You're gonna know what to say to get that result, like 90% of the time at least. And that's a very powerful skill to have. Like that is what am I thinking here? That's like, that's like one step above, you know, and it's almost messed up in a way. If you look at it from a certain type of perspective, that can be seen as a little messed up because
it's almost playing God.
It's almost playing God because you believe that you have this power over others, but hey, maybe you do have this power over others because knowledge is power at the end of the day. And that is
we are living at the cutting edge of the information age. I think we are just seeing the very beginning of what information can truly do. Like, advertising is just the start. It's always the forefront of any new emerging technology or development. It's always profits. So that is always going to be the first thing people see when they see a new technology or development. But there's always going to be alternative motives. There's always going to be different uses of that, you know, data, that predictive stuff that you can use to manipulate people for. So when you're listening to people, you're trying to get something from them that is improving, because everyone has an agenda. Like, people who make the programs, people who have this data, they will have an agenda at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That they will want to pursue with any means necessary. So, like, if they want to manipulate people, if they want to, like, change their opinions, they're going to do it with the tools that they have.
And for individuals that have this concept that Michael Huemer came up with in their brain at all times, if you truly are sitting there going, it is impossible for me to prove that this person next to me has any emotions like I do, that they have any thoughts like I do. If that is truly at the forefront of your brain, if that concept is true to you, it will be much easier to almost act without remorse, act without care, because you're like, hey, I truly at the end of the day can't prove this person exists. Why spend the time trying to prove something that is impossible? If I just keep this mindset, yes, in this simulation, in quotation marks, that I live in, it could be considered, based on what I've been forced to know in my life, a negative thing by a lot of these other people that may or may not even be there. If you can keep that idea in your brain, you could act without caring. I said it already, but I think it's good to say it again. Like that. It's almost like you're just looking at a robot. Do you care what your computer feels when you type something into the internet? Even if you type in "I hate computers," you're not worried that your computer is going to look at you negatively. You know what I mean? And that could be the same way that these human beings that have broken through to this like new crazy world perspective and influence truly how they act towards others, which is insane. These concepts, as wildly exciting and engaging as they are, they're also equally as terrifying.
Yeah.
Because they can make people act in unpredictable ways.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous. It is truly ridiculous. So we talked about some good stuff. You know, we talked about how, like, why care what others think of you, when at the end of the day you should only care what one other person thinks of you. The person that actually has the background knowledge, the person that actually gives you the motivation to keep moving forward. Like, would it make any sense to listen to your mother your whole life. You know what I mean? Listen to your mother your entire life, and then all of a sudden one day, just because you didn't like one thing she said, you just decide to stop listening. Like, I feel like that wouldn't make much sense. You've listened to so many things in the past that she has told you to do that you didn't initially like, but it made you who you are today. You know what I mean? So why all of a sudden just decide not to listen to something because in the moment, you didn't feel like doing it. A million times you've done something you didn't feel like you were doing. So we talked about that. We talked about the idea that it is truly impossible to prove that anything exists in this world other than whatever weird consciousness we have the opportunity of exploring. Is there anything else you want to throw in here? Like these concepts are infinitely exciting, infinitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Unsolvable. You know what I mean? There's no great answer to these.
It's only a matter of your personal belief at the end of the day. Like, it's not going to change your day-to-day life, whether you believe it. It will change your actions and how you treat other people if you believe no one is, real. But at the end of the day, the only thing we know is what the environment, one of the basic conflicts of a narrative is person versus person or person versus society or environment. There's always going to be a challenge that comes across a person that you'll have to overcome, and whether it's real or not, you won't know, but it's part of the human condition to always look for a better or more comfortable situation. So they will overcome challenges to manifest into the person they are. So if that means not listening to someone or going off the beaten path, it's always going to be down to the human condition to really dictate all of our actions.
I love it. I think that's perfect what you just said there. The human condition. Humans are humans at the end of the day. We are far from perfect. Do you think that philosophy and these concepts are what the world needs right now? Do you think that if people took the time to learn this information, it would be beneficial, let's say, for the greater good, whatever that means, but like in simple terms, beneficial for the greater good, if these philosophical concepts are taken more seriously?
I've always considered philosophy as society's subconscious. It is just like the grassroots understanding of the world. It shapes your subconscious opinions and thoughts on how you view the world. So by learning philosophy, you can see different perspectives and see which worldview fits best with your personal agenda. If you have like a certain way you need to understand the world to make it make sense for yourself, every person needs some stable ground to build themselves off of. So that's what philosophy does. It's a base foundation for a lot of people to build their character, their vision of what the future looks like and what
they want to be.
They want it themselves to be.
That's extremely interesting how you put it. So tell me if I'm right here. So in simple terms, it's almost like you're given the opportunity to pick 10 dresses, and you get to look at each dress individually. You get to put it on, and then you get to decide at the end of the day which one fits best for you. Kinda.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and it gives you the opportunity to check out all these other dresses, when most of the time you're just presented with one, and then you're like, all right, this is all I have. This is gonna be my worldview. Like, if you don't know what you don't know, and so what you're saying is this philosophy almost gives you that opportunity to look at the world from just completely different perspectives for almost like the first time.
Yeah,
I think that's incredible. I agree. I'm on board with you. Philosophy. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I think if it was taken more seriously, the world would most likely have less hate, more understanding, probably more like people will try to actually work together. You know what I mean? We wouldn't just act in the now. We would act for a better tomorrow, not for a better today. I truly believe that. Do you think one day we'll get there?
I mean, considering you and me just came back from a trip to Israel, we kind of got to see what a unified country looked like. Right now in America, we're not unified. We don't have the strong nationalistic, pride that we had, like, I don't know, back in 1940s, World War II, you know, just fervor of, coming together and working for fighting a larger enemy. That was probably considered the pinnacle of American pride. In Israel, they had nationalistic pride. That entire country is tight knit. They are focused on survival, but by any means necessary. That's the kind of mindset that they're at. So they're pushing their technology. They're pushing themselves to the ultimate limit for this little country to survive. So I think that's a good template society to kind of model a progressive society that tries to push the boundaries. But on the other hand, they are the way they are because of their constant struggle. So there's a saying, tough times create strong men, and like easy times creates, or weak men create difficult times. Strong men create moments of peace. But anyways, it's the kind of cycle of progression where there's always going to be, for progress to be made, a struggle. So conflict will create a struggle that people will force themselves to go through in order for them to achieve their overarching goal. Usually it's their life or like a bigger purpose like their country. But that is one of the biggest things that people need, is a larger purpose to attribute themselves to. They need something for a person to really push themselves beyond what they are already, they need to have a certain goal or like purpose to life. So if that means God, or through religion, through work, or through like service to the country, like people need reason to wake up in the morning. Yeah.
Yes. And do you think that philosophical concepts could almost give people that?
Yes.
You think it could?
It can create like the basis, and they might not directly give them the answer of what am I going to do with my life.
Nothing's that easy.
It's not that easy, but at least they can have a basis on which they want to like approach life with. Like it can be like a positive mindset, negative mindset, but at the end of the day, they will have that subconscious conversations that philosophy introduces that makes you understand people better, which makes you more effective, as a person, as like a communicator.
Maybe for the first time in your entire life, you'll stop acting on your surface emotions and start like thinking through your issues and having it overpower your primal urges at the end of the day. Philosophy is this new crazy concept that maybe it is exactly what humanity needs to get to the next step. Thank you so much again, my buddy Michael Umansky. I'm sure you'll be back on the show. We are out of time for today. I can't thank you enough for being here. Is there any last things you want to say?
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. All right, I'll see all of my trustworthy followers tomorrow.